So obviously back at it. It's an exciting time for us from the standpoint that we get back on the field, the fun part of what we do, and to get out and coach the players. And so no pads, but it's good to be out there and move around. We do a lot of individual time. We do a lot of special teams. Try to get some really quality teaching and coaching since we don't have contact in practice. A lot of 7-on-7, some one-on-ones. But it was fun to get back out there. The players have had a fantastic off season. I've been very impressed with them. I think they're in excellent shape right now. Their attitudes are good. I like the cohesiveness of our group, where we're at. Leadership's really good. So it's an exciting time for all of us. We'll practice again Wednesday and Thursday, and then they'll be off for spring break. When we come back, we get to go full pads. So just looking forward to being back out there with the team.
Mike, this is the first time we've had a chance to talk to you since you promoted Casey and hired Tim. Can you just talk about both decisions, moving Casey up and getting Rattay in here?
Casey was a really good fit for the situation we're in now, tied in with bringing Tim in to coach quarterbacks. So his experience and relationship with our returning players, which is a big number, was a real comfort for me in elevating him. And then as we went through this process, I wanted to make sure that we could get a quarterback coach that was a really good technician and could bring our guys along and recruit that position. And so that's how we ended up with Casey in charge and then Tim coaching quarterbacks.
This is not a setup you've had before, with your coordinator not being your quarterbacks coach. So I assume that there had to be a high level of appreciation for what both guys could do to make that move.
Yes, and the questions come from just, being at the coffee shop, well, why now? The fit was good based on returning players we have. I'm very comfortable with the system we're going to run, which is our plays that we run. We don't really change much. We do a little bit based on who the quarterback is, but so we don't need to vary and get away from who we are. And so Casey's a perfect fit. We're able to keep guys together. And then once I felt like I had a good shot of getting Tim, it made me a lot more comfortable. So the timing was good for all parties involved.
Mike, you've done both. You know how much work goes into it. So how much more can Tim develop the quarterbacks, not having to worry about watching the extra tape and being a caller, even in practice?
That is an advantage. I've always been somewhat hesitant for a play caller to not be in the quarterback room. I don't think there's any question there. It's people know that. But I'm comfortable with the situation we have now, and that is an advantage in that Tim's responsibility is to watch the quarterback every play in practice, every day, all the time. And that will make it a little bit easier. So we moved Lorenzo to the graduate assistant spot so he could work on the field with wide receivers and be active as a coach. And that would allow Casey to move around some if he needed to watch other positions. Now, Casey's not going to get too far away from the wideouts, but it does allow him that freedom because Coach Dunn and myself both, we're comfortable with Lorenzo helping on the field with the wide receivers.
How have you noticed the development of Rattay's relationship with Spencer? And maybe even with the other guys in the room?
I just see him visiting in his office and kind of when they're walking by each other. So I'll be able to answer that question a lot better in 2 months, just from a standpoint of having a relationship outside of where we're at practice-wise. I watched some of it today, and what I saw was what I was expecting to see from Tim in the way he was handling quarterbacks. Tim is a gym rat quarterback himself and son of a coach. So I was hoping that what I heard when I did my background check with other coaches was true. And from what I saw, it's early, it's 1 day, it's kind of what I thought.
Saw Tylen out there. How's he doing?
He's doing good. He's, guys that are as athletic as Tylen and some of these other guys are ahead of schedule. So now he just needs to stay on course and not try to do too much. and he'll be fine. He'll be up and going before long, but we just don't want him to get too far ahead of himself.
John Clay was, a local guy around here. What went into bringing him here, and how's he kind of fit in so far?
He's fit in really well. We recruited him and then committed to Arkansas early, and so we stayed in touch with him. During that time, people would ask about him, and so when he contacted us, we had a prior relationship, and so it worked out well to get him back here. And after the coaching change they had over there, so we're glad he's on our team.
Any update on his waiver status?
That takes a time. I don't think it's going to matter in a month anyway. I think it's going to just go through, and in most cases, when you have a rule change like that, they're going to grandfather it back. They're going to go back and say he's good, would be my guess. But gosh, what is this, March? It could be May before we find out what that status is.
You mentioned that rule change. What do you think of that possible rule change?
Well, it's a lot to comprehend. I mean, we could sit down and talk about it for several hours. So, in a case like Colin, I don't know that there's been anybody who's had a head coach get fired that didn't get a waiver. So, but with what you're talking about is there's so many different moving parts with what's going on right now. My personal opinion is it's going to happen. There'll be a lot of different thought, but the NCAA needs to be able to match up from a number standpoint. If they put that in place, they need to say, okay, then here's what we're going to do to make the numbers right, or it's going to be a mess. So if we get into that part of it, the free agency part, you just have to have a way to match your numbers up. The NCAA needs to change their thought process, or I'm not sure what the answer would be after that.
What's DAT mean?
Oh, discipline and toughness.
Speaking of those transfers, how much do you keep an eye on them? Just get your first look at them and feel for them during the spring practices?
Oh, I glance at them some. I get a better report in the staff meeting from their position coaches. They'll kind of update us on what's going on. A guy like Colin, who's played, I don't know, he had 350 snaps or so in the Southeast Conference. It's still new because it's a transition. So we usually talk a little bit of that after the first week in pads, just kind of how guys are doing and things like that.
Jarek moved to corner. What went into that?
Just based on his strengths and the type of offenses that we face in this league, that we kind of feel like that he's better suited there.
What does that do with safety? It kind of shows you maybe you have some faith in some of those other guys too.
Sure. 25, Jason played really well in the bowl game, and we have experience at that position. So I think it was more that just we feel like his strengths and what he can bring to the table can be more advantageous at that position in our league.
Mike, say your first quarterback's coach. Was Robert Matthews your only previous?
Yeah, he was, because I was calling plays then, right? He was in the room, but I was coaching him for the most part. So Tim really is the first one I've ever had.
So ultimately, just the advantage of having one coach committed 24/7 to the quarterback.
Right.
What's the best advantage you get out of it?
Well, Robert had asked that, and that's one advantage you get. I've always been little leery of a coordinator not coaching quarterbacks. That's just me. I know a lot of people do it, but everybody has their own little things that concern them, and so. But the flip side of that is it's an advantage because Tim all he's got to do is coach quarterbacks and watch them all the time. And coordinators get their eyes other places, and that position is so important. Everything they have to do has to be right all the time. So that is an advantage that I'm excited about.
Well, your freshman quarterback from California, he's been here, 10 weeks or something. How is he acclimated and how's he performing?
He seems to be doing great. He's pretty quiet, doesn't talk a lot. Did well in the off season. I was impressed with how big his body is. I would have thought he would have struggled more. He didn't, and I thought he did good out there today. It's real early, but I don't think it's overwhelming him. So I think he's kind of holding his own at this point.
You mean you thought he'd be overwhelmed by the off season?
Well, yeah. When you're as big as he is, it's not easy to do all that running. But I thought sometimes when you come in and play quarterback as an early enrolled freshman, it can overwhelm you a little bit, and he seems to be doing fine.
Is he athletic? You know?
For being 6'6", he is. I mean, obviously he won't look like a 6'1" or 6'2" guy, but he's an advantage because he's tall in the pocket. But I think he's pretty athletic for his size.
You signed Jelani to play quarterback, but pretty early, I guess after a year, switched him over. But Illingworth seems to be a quarterback.
Yeah, he's a quarterback.
Yeah. So this is a unique guy for you, really, to have that kind of size.
He's a lot like Taylor. Taylor was more flexible and had more out just straight speed than what Shane does at this time, but their body structure and kind of the way they carry themselves, there's a lot of similarities because nobody ever heard Corn talk for 4 years, so they're a lot alike from that standpoint. So
That's true. We were talking about that.
yeah, you never heard him talk, and I didn't hear him talk for 4 years. Yeah, he's doing great.
He is. He sounds great.
And you know that if you watched, I haven't watched hardly any of that, but I've seen. I just happened to be flipping through the TV on his games, and I'm not knocking anybody, but the people around him are pretty average. I mean, he doesn't have a good supporting cast, but he's doing really well. I've watched him, and he floated an interception to a safety in the end zone one time. I texted him right after that. He was still playing in the game, but I still needed to text him. It'd be good if you found your safeties before you laid one up down the field. But anyway, I'm so excited and happy for him, such he's a great person. And they were kind of riding him a little bit, and he just kept fighting. And I guess, now I didn't see it yesterday, but Gage told me that he played good yesterday.
Well,
I didn't get to see
the other quarterback is a Florida kid.
Right, and I don't know, did he get hurt or something? See,
I thought it was performance.
yeah, what's his name's the coach? Used to be at the Bears.
Pressman.
Yeah, and see, there must be something he likes about Corn because he's stuck with him. Because 3 games ago they didn't play very good, and he didn't play very good. But since then he's done really well. So
How's Spencer's hand?
he's fine. He's 100%. Yeah, he's good.
How was he going through that kind of surgery and recovery? Because I know that's kind of a tough surgery. Drew Brees had it, things like
I mean,
that.
he was fine, but we had to, I had to get on him a few times because he was doing things he's not supposed to do, and that's a risk. That injury that he has is very risky until it solidifies and gets back to 100%. If you injure it again, you might not be able to repair it the right way. Now, I don't know why that is medically. I just know that's what I was told. So he's doing really good now, but he was trying to get back out and do things he shouldn't have been during bowl practice, so I was a little concerned, but he's doing fine now.
Darius is one of your most experienced players, and especially so in a relatively young secondary. How do you think that experience will help him now that he's in the spotlight?
Well, his maturity and experience is important for any player. Those guys have worked together for a number of years. Their communication should be really good. And this is what I call, this is a money year for Rodarius. I mean, this is a year that he needs to put really, really quality plays on video for to increase his chances to play beyond this year, which helps our team. So this is a big year for him from this standpoint. He needs to stay focused and work really hard and put a lot of plays on tape for those guys that are evaluating.
Coach, this could be a pretty big year for Braden Johnson as well. So from now until the start of the season, what are some things that you would like for him to work on to be ready for this year?
We wouldn't know as much about him if Tylen wouldn't have got hurt. And so it worked out. It was one of those things that worked out well for us now that we have a lot of faith in him. And he's been an awesome young man for us because when he came in here, before you were around here, his first year or two was tough. Just structure and all the things, and then he turned a complete 360 and started working really hard and doing things right, and then had success last year. So it's a real success story for him. Basically, the culture we're in here worked with him, and we're expecting him to make plays. Now you have his speed on the other side of the field from Walls. So he's a threat. If they want to play the safety over Tylen, which a lot of people do, then we have to use him and his speed. We wouldn't know that right now if it wasn't for him making plays last year. So that's pretty cool.
Coach, with Jarek Bernard switching positions, he must have shown a lot of versatility. How important is versatility for a player?
He's a better fit for our style of defense at corner with the teams that we see in this league. It'll be interesting to see how he develops over the next 4 weeks. But our guys feel like that he gives us a big lift there versus the style of play that we see in this league.
Where do you see his ceiling being at as a corner in the Big 12?
Well, I don't know. I know he's fast. I know he's smart. I haven't seen him play corner. So we'll know a lot more in about a month.